So here's a question I bet a lot of us have thought about at some point. How in the world do you get back into your career after taking a big break, especially when it feels like that career has been moving at light speed without you? Today, we're going to dive right into that exact problem, all through the story of one executive and a really tough choice he had to make. And this image, wow, this just says it all, doesn't it? You've been cruising along in the family minivan lane, focused on other things, and now you're trying to merge onto a Formula One racetrack. The cars are faster, the rules have changed, the language is totally different, and you're just left thinking, can I even keep up? This is exactly where our story starts. All right, so let's meet the driver of that minivan. His name is Richard Carter. He was a seriously high-flying marketing VP at a huge company. But about a decade ago, he hit the pause button on his career, and he did it for a really, really important reason. That reason was his daughter, Ava. She's incredibly bright, but she was really struggling in a typical school environment. So Richard did something amazing. He walked away from the corporate world to build a customized education for her, completely from scratch. And you know what? She absolutely thrived. Okay, so let's fast forward. Ava is now 17, she's aced her education, and she's heading off to college. Richard is 52, and that single, all-consuming purpose that drove him for an entire decade, it's gone. Then he hears a speaker say this one line, "Purpose is oxygen." And man, does that hit home. For 10 years, his daughter was his oxygen. Now, he needs to find a new way to breathe. So, Richard decides it's time to get back in the game. But he almost immediately slams into a wall. He finds out that the professional world he left 10 years ago, well, it just doesn't exist anymore. In today's workplace, a decade might as well be a century. His very first call is to an old buddy, a top headhunter. And the feedback he gets is brutal, but it's honest. The recruiter says it's all about currency. It's not about what you did 10 years ago. It's about whether you've been in the game recently. Do you know the new tools, the new strategies? All of Richard's incredible past success, it feels like a currency from a country that no longer exists. And this feeling becomes crystal clear when he lands an interview at a hot startup called Neuralark. Richard's in there talking about brand architecture and these big national campaigns he used to run. And the CEO, who's all of 31 years old, just politely listens and then drops this line on him. Loops, not campaigns. The entire playbook has been rewritten. It's not about media buys. It's about TikTok and user activation and network effects. It's a whole new language. And this is the giant chasm he's staring across. All that experience he worked so hard for feels totally useless because he can't speak the new language. It's that awful, sinking feeling of becoming irrelevant. You know, being the old guy in the room, pitching ideas to a CEO who's young enough to be his son. But here's the thing. Richard doesn't give up. He keeps pushing, keeps networking. And it actually pays off. After weeks of this grind, he doesn't just get one offer, he gets two. And they represent two completely different ways of getting back on that racetrack. Okay, let's break these two choices down because this is where it gets really interesting. On one side, you've got the startup, Neuralark. It's a big VP title, super high risk, but its mission, helping kids with learning differences, is so deeply personal to him. On the other side, you've got a returnship at a giant Fortune 100 company. It's a much safer, more structured path, but it's a step down in title to marketing manager. One is offering him purpose and a lottery ticket with equity. The other is offering stability and a clear, safe on-ramp. I mean, talk about a classic head versus heart dilemma. And just to make this choice even tougher, the case study we're looking at brings in two experts who look at this exact situation and come to completely opposite conclusions. This is where it becomes a real battle, the practical, safe path versus the passionate, risky one. So let's meet our experts. On the left, we have Carol Fishman-Cohen. She's a total pro in career reentry programs. On the right, there's Ashley Dartnell, a former global director of diversity and inclusion. Both of them have incredible resumes, and as you're about to see, both have some very strong opinions. First up is Carol. Her argument is just clear, logical, and super pragmatic. For her, this isn't even a hard choice. The returnship is the obvious and much, much smarter option. And her logic is all right here. A returnship isn't just a job. It's a bridge designed to get you from the past to the present. These programs have an over 85% success rate of converting to full-time jobs, so they work. He wouldn't be going it alone. He'd have a mentor and a whole community of other people just like him, all learning together. Carol's point is pretty simple. You don't just jump into a Formula One car after a decade in a minivan. You get retrained first. Going to the startup, in her view, is just a disaster waiting to happen.
But then Ashley Dartnell steps in. She looks at the exact same set of facts and says, nope, the startup is the only real choice here. Her argument is about optimizing for something totally different.
This right here, this quote is Ashley's entire argument in a nutshell. At 52 years old, financially pretty secure, Richard shouldn't be making a choice based on stability. He should be optimizing his life for purpose. The mission at NeuralArc isn't just some job. It's a direct continuation of the most important work he's ever done. And that kind of alignment, she argues, that's absolutely priceless. So here's Ashley's game plan for Richard. First, lean into what makes him unique. His maturity, his empathy, his life experience, those are huge assets, not liabilities. Second, he can learn the new tools and the jargon. That's just homework. But her last point is the real mic drop. The risk is basically an illusion. If the startup crashes and burns, that safe returnship path will still be there. But this passionate, purpose-driven opportunity, that might not come around again. Which brings it all back to Richard, standing at this massive crossroads with two very convincing arguments ringing in his ears. For 10 straight years, every single choice he made was about what was best for his daughter. Now, for the first time in a very long time, he has to decide what he truly wants.
And that's the question we're left with. What would you choose? Do you take the safe, structured on-ramp to slowly get back up to speed? Or do you slam the gas and jump right into the high-speed lane, fueled by purpose, and just hope you can figure out how to drive at 200 miles an hour? It's a choice between rebuilding your foundation and betting everything on your passion.